Hello, everyone. Good morning. Well, it's almost a good afternoon. And also, I would like to greet the people from home that are watching us. So also good morning to you all from all over Europe. So today, my name is Igor Kalinic. I forgot always to introduce myself. I'm a head of sector at the European Executive Agencies for SMEs and the EIC. It's a big title, but basically European Commission in short. And we are focused on sustaining and supporting the SMEs, first and foremost. Today, I am in a very good company, and I'm very honored to introduce you to my co-panelists, starting from Andrea Jaklic. She's the Chair of International Relations at University of Ljubljana. Then we continue with Uwe Flach, which is Head of Consulting Operations, Development and International Affairs of Bundesbeschaffung, or in English,
Federal Procurement Agency.
Federal Procurement Agency. Then we have Carlos Garcia Delgado from Corporación Tecnológica de Andalucía. He's also head of sector, like me, Civil Engineering and Procurement section. And finally, we wrap it up. We go back to the beginning with my colleague, Darian Peric, who is a project advisor in charge of most of the public procurement projects at the executive agency, the SMEA. So one quick remark. There are, welcome. We will be using Slidos. This is especially for the people from home. You will be able also later on to scan the code when it comes to the Q&A session at the end. And here in the presence, we will have also a microphone running around, so you can ask questions also in that way. And just for the people online, when you scan it, and you can exactly do it later, select the room, which is called PALFY, P-A-L-F-F-Y. So this is the room where we are. Now, I will sit, so I will join my panelists, and I will start with the presentation. So why this session? Well, actually, this session came into our mind because it's public procurement, and the title, we've been thinking a lot about the title, and now it's written innovative and SME-friendly, but what actually is public procurement, innovation, and SME-friendly. And why we are doing this, joining these two things together? Well, because actually, as we heard also from Draghi, repeated also yesterday, this morning, in order for Europe to stay competitive, its real innovation is very, very, very important. So it's not the only thing, but it is important to have our companies being innovative. But at the same time, nowadays, most of the innovation is not happening in the big companies. It's happening in the small companies that maybe are bought out later from the big companies. So if public procurement wants to attract, wants to be catalyst for the innovation, well, they need to make an SME-friendly procurement. And we all know how difficult it is for us as small, medium enterprise to participate in the public procurement, in the calls, with all the regulation for transparency and so on. So we have to innovate on two ends. One is to teach basically public procurers, big buyers, most of the people here in these institutions, how to actually draft the calls that are innovation friendly, but also how they are SME friendly. It's a double challenge. Public procurement in the EU, why it is important? Well, it's 14% of the GDP. It's something like 2 trillion, I don't even know how many zeros there are in this number. Just for level of comparison, the budget of the entire European Union is more or less 1%, a little bit more than 1% of the GDP, which means that 1% more or less of your gross salary goes to the functioning of the entire European Union. And 96% of that, 95%, is returned to the member states in like public procurement, call for proposals, investments. So basically for the functioning of the entire European Union, it's 0.045% of your gross salary. Not much, right? And the money in the public procurement is something like 25 times this. So if we do so little, we can do a lot, as the European Union has done, just if Erasmus and roaming was enough, it's with this money. I think that nobody really checks at the end of the month if they have 0.04% less in their salary, gross. So there is really a lot of money locked there. Public procurement is catalyst for innovation, it's economic multiplier, and it's really more and more focusing on SMEs. And this is not only in Europe, it's also in the United States. The United States, the public procurement still accounts to 10 to 12%, so it's comparable to us. And in the absolute numbers, it's the same number because their economy is slightly bigger than European Union, so it's around 2 trillion euros as well. But there are also differences between EU and US. And the fact is that in US, the public procurement, especially when it comes to the SMEs, is focused, of course, on defense. They are buying, and on high-tech, ultra-tech companies that, again, maybe come back again to be somehow defense, spying, intelligence, or so on. In Europe, what is the key word? We all know, sustainability, green, innovation. So actually, where the money of the public, of the state goes, is in doing more innovative solutions to be sustainable, to be green, to be digital. So it's very different. And yesterday, for those ones that were at the lecture, Peterian lecture, Professor Wiklund actually said that entrepreneurial ecosystems have to be tailored to the local environment, and I couldn't agree more. So we have to focus on this kind of our priorities. There is also a part that I disagree with Professor Wiklund, which is that small businesses are not really part of the entrepreneurial systems, small business management. Well, I think that actually in Europe, small businesses, a lot of them are also can and shall be entrepreneurial. I'm not talking about the bakery or the coffee shop around the corner where actually if they innovate and they change my coffee, I will not go back to them. But I'm talking about those 30% of the companies that are in the textile industry, that are in the manufacturing industry, and these that have been running for decades, maybe for generations. They have 60, 80, 100 employees, but they are maybe international. They have a subsidiary in China, they have a subsidiary in another EU state, and they don't want to grow too much because then they will lose the control of their own company. But of course, they have to keep incrementally innovating because otherwise they implode. They will not exist on the market, right? But this is also very typical European, where we heard also earlier the French entrepreneur in the fashion industry, and I talked to her earlier. It's like, I want to build up my own textile company. I want to produce in Europe, but I don't want to be big. I want to have my own small company and be innovative in that with the small. So this is something very typical European. In this context, we will have our panelists discussing. I will start from Andrea that will introduce more, let's say, university academic perspective, and later on, Uwe will talk more about the trainings project that he's doing with us about central purchasing bodies, for central purchasing bodies, SME-friendly trainings. And then, Carlos is going to talk about public procurement of innovation. And in the end, Darian will give you an overlook of what we are doing in SMEA and also how you can participate and join us in this common journey. Just before going forward, I will show you what we will not talk about. This is public procurement legal framework. Tons of articles, tons of things. We are thinking about redoing that in Europe, in making it more SME-friendly and making it more streamlined. So this will feed in that. We are not going to talk about this today. Okay, you can send us your questions. And now the floor is yours, Andrea.
Thank you. So welcome, everybody. Yes, I will share the experience of monitoring the effects of public procurement. So at our center, at the University of Ljubljana, at the Center of International Relations, we actually regularly check the barriers and challenges and difficulties that SMEs face in their internationalization. And public procurement were traditionally seen as something which helps companies, SMEs, a domestic market, right, typically. But our question was how much they are important when SMEs are growing internationally. So that's the empirical exercise that we did, and I will show you the results. So I think it would be easier if we follow. Yeah, so the first question was whether participation in public procurement helped to grow internationally, and we were also curious whether the location matter, whether the participation in public procurement also determined the location where companies are more able to grow. And we, based on research-based views, so we assume that actually with participation in public procurement, companies may gain resources, may gain capabilities, visibility, credibility, trust, also financial stability, which is important, and this will further help them to access foreign markets to also to increase skills, to build new partnership, and get the competencies necessary for international growth. So these were the hypotheses that we started with. And luckily in Slovenia, we do have quite good data sets, so we were able to do an experiment from 2014 to 2022, and we considered all SMEs that gain public procurement, and we have quite rich data set, so we have data of contracts, value, recipients, etc. And we were able to merge this data with balance sheets and income statements, and we also have quite big set of panel data, so the data set was rich enough actually to really consider the most important recipients. We take only those who were able to win the public procurement in the last 3 years and not before, and this was more than 5% of their total revenue. So we get around 27,000 potential SMEs that have not received, so that was important because we were also able to build a control group for this, so we were able to compare the recipients and non-recipients of public procurement. And we were looking at export, so the dependent variable was export, how much they gain in export, and we were looking at export within the EU and outside EU. So we were able to compare how important was this winning in public procurement. And we also saw that actually winners were smaller in terms of export revenue. So as a rule, they were also older by 1.4 years and have 1.5 more employees than the average SMEs. So it's not a random selection, but we can see that indeed there is self-selection going on even during this public procurement winning process. Yes, and for the control group, so we want to really detect how much this public procurement is important. That's why we detect the control group as likely as the winners. So the same variables, the same industry, the same size, similar pre-export behavior, and that's how we build this control group, and we then observe what happens in time with recipients and non-recipients, right? So that was the idea of estimation. So we wanted to directly estimate and evaluate the effect of the public procurement, not just the comparison, but really the causal effect. And we use different methodologies. Most robust is this difference in difference estimated, but also other tests we did. So we tried to really check with the different methods how robust these results are. And the results, so one was also the causal mediation analysis, where actually we wanted to check the direct effect and the indirect effect as well. So that was the idea. So because we assumed according to the theory, as I said before, it's not just the direct effect with the financial flow to export, but also it's going through capacity, partnership, assets building, etc. So that was the idea. And what were the results at the end of the day? Yes, we confirmed both hypotheses. So indeed, public procurement does not have a role only in domestic market in financial stability, but indeed it has been recognized as an important tool for internationalization. That effect was stronger in manufacturing. So manufacturing firms increased the exports even more than service firms. And there were micro firms where these results were particularly strong. So micro firms really, which are as a rule often excluded by this, were really seen as the most important driver. And also the SME results confirm this effect. So public procurement, we identified direct effect on export, but also the effect on the increasing number of employees, on the increasing wage, so skill effect as well, and also tangible effect. So we identified tangible indirect effect as well. So yes, as I said, this effect was really seen in total export. So you can see this longitudinally with significance that we were observing 3 years before companies gained the procurement and we were looking what's going on with the company 5 years after. So we were able to detect this positive effect in total export, and when we were looking at location, we could see that this effect is stronger in the EU markets than in non-EU markets. So the non-EU markets show us less significant effect. So just to conclude, I won't go into details, but in general, we can say that really public tenders are important incentive for internationalization as well. They were rarely considered as a policy measure or as a tool at all in that way, but we should consider it in that way as well, especially for enhancing capabilities. And the positive effect is now more seen in closer and in EU integrated markets. But there is definitely a room to explore further and do further experiments, because we have been identified already many links and many directions. So it's certainly an area where we can search further, and we can also build new measures and incentives. So that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Okay, so actually I met Andrea many years ago, a couple of years ago only, right? When I was still like a PhD student, actually, and I will try not to make academic questions, so that it would be how we met actually when presenting papers. But no, it's very interesting what you are doing, and actually this is really a good input for the policymakers, and that public procurement is not just important for the innovation, but also for the internationalization of the companies. And we know that innovation and internationalization, they go hand in hand from all the other research and so on. Of course, there are questions about the size of the country, Slovenia being a smaller country, what is the impact in the bigger countries, so probably further research is needed. But there are two very interesting things. So first of all, your data set is very big. So 10,000 companies you said that you're having. But actually, when I'm preparing this session, I got amazed that in Europe, the public procurement, almost 50% or around 50% goes to SMEs already. We would think a much smaller number, but actually SMEs, this is our market, this is our reality. In the US is way less, around 20%. But in your study, which SMEs are more likely to succeed in internationalization due to the public procurement? And what would you suggest to the policymakers from that?
Well, out of this study, maybe I jumped over, but within this study, we were able to detect which are more likely to succeed. So we compared more successful and less successful receivers only. And there we could see that actually experience, skill, wage is very important. Actually, we might later do with fuzzy sets methods and detect the paths which are more likely to win into successful or growing firms. So, and experience, international experience, skill, and structure of employees is definitely something which are determinants of international effects. But here there is room to do more. Methods are constantly developing, and as you said, the numbers, the samples are really growing, so we are able to explore and do this research further. So I think it's really potential to even detect in detail the link between innovation and internationalization through public procurement, but this is something we can start on, right? And I think that would be really nice for policymakers. We haven't done the full research yet, but we can do it. The data are there, the methods are there, so it's the next step.
This is very interesting because actually a lot of our research now, of the research in academia is not mainly timely connected with the policy, but this one is really spot on and it's a political priority. So we'll be happy to contribute. Now we go to the second, to Uwe, that will actually, you jumped over, that will talk about, to us about the SME-friendly training for central purchasing bodies.
Thank you, Igor. Welcome from my side as well. I will not only talk about the training program, but in general about professionalization of our public procurement workforce. And Igor was outlining it in the beginning, how important the volume is of public procurement, what we put into our European market. And if we are honest, most of our economic operators in Europe are SMEs, so it's very important that we focus on them and making sure they can take part in our public procurement tenders. So that's why it is very important that our public procurement workforce has the capacity and the capabilities to really ensure a sound public procurement system in our countries, so that SMEs and other economic operators can participate in an efficient way, and we create, in the end of the day, value for money. And especially nowadays, as we have all these policy goals and governments trying to leverage public procurement to achieve such strategic goals, you mentioned them, Igor, as innovation, SME inclusion, sustainability. So we need to ensure that we have a professional workforce in our system. And traditionally, a public buyer was more an administrative role, very focused on legal aspects and so on. If we really want to talk to market, include SMEs, we need to switch our mindset. We usually used to be very reactive. Somebody came and said, I have a demand, can you fulfill it? No, we need to change and we need to switch to a proactive way. And that's why I like to take this quote always. It's actually from a management approach. And people asking me, what are the skills we need in the future? I don't know all of them. Some are clear, but I always say the best way to predict the future is to create it. So we need to shift the mindset in public procurement. We need to be a solution provider. We need to kind of being a strategic partner for public bodies and also for our SMEs and economic operators. So that is going to be a big change. And we're trying with our training programs and initiatives to set this up in the mind. And of course, professionalization is much more than just individual training of people. It was mentioned, European Commission has the professionalization as one of their top priorities, strategic goals in the public procurement sector. So they, for many years now, financing and funding a lot of initiatives in training. The latest one, and we as a BBG in a consortium are honored and happy to run this program, is the so-called PPE Plus Europe training program. PPE stands for Public Procurement Excellence, is an abbreviation we created a few years ago. And this is a comprehensive training program which runs over 4 years, where we will have 4 training rounds over the next 4 years. We do it together also with the University of Economics and Business in Vienna, so we can even award ECTS points for master degrees. And the training program, which is very interesting, is not only focusing on training itself, but also on consulting services. So the idea behind is we kind of train, teach participants, but then when they go back to their organizations, we also offer the organization small consulting packages to drive change or transformation. So they learn and they should bring it back and bring it on the ground in the organization, in the country, wherever. So, and that's just some numbers around the training itself. So it's very comprehensive, around 6 weeks of training we're providing. And what is important is we have in these 4 years around 170 participants. They're coming all from central procurement functions, or they are professionals from regulatory bodies, policy functions. And we're addressing it not to newbies or like beginners in public procurement, because we think this training program should be to experience up to management level, because they can drive change. And that is the goal of this training program. And it's for 38 eligible European countries, so not only for member states we're doing this program. You don't need to read all this curriculum, it's just to highlight you how comprehensive it is. And I just have kind of circled a few aspects which are really relevant also in the context of SME. Stakeholder management and communication. We're always forgetting this. We need to be able to talk to the market. We need to build trust, and procurement is business people. We're not working with machines. We don't have a belt who's producing something. It's interaction between people. So it's very important to have this on the agenda. All the things about the socio-political topics we touched already, so it's very important that we go into this training program also on the innovation, SME-related topics, sustainability, which automatically link to the SME sector as well. Again, communication, presentation, you see we're not doing just hard skills, we're doing also soft skills, because we think this is very important, especially when we talk about the change in the mindset. Then we have effective tender and contract strategies. And this starts actually with market analysis, market talks, market conversations. You wouldn't believe a lot of public procurement entities still are afraid to talk to the market before they go for tender. How can we do this? We need to be we need to ensure, of course, equal treatment and so on, but a lot of public institutions are still afraid to talk to the market, invite economic operators, talk about their products, their services, what can they deliver to the public administration. It's very important that we focus on this as well. Contract supplier management is also something that's very important. We focus in public procurement on tender. Tender is done, awarded, no appeal, the legal people are happy, in the administration say done. At that point in time, there's no value created. There's no single euro saved and no value created. The value creation starts once the SME or the other economic operators or suppliers delivering the goods, and we're using them, and they're providing the service. So we need to manage this phase. This is crucial. This is also for SMEs. We need to involve them, and we need to develop with them. It's also something unusual in public procurement sometimes. How can I develop my supplier? We even do audits. We do audits, and the supplier is paying for it, because they say, okay, with you we can develop, even if this is just for 4 years, a framework agreement, but we develop. So different mindset again. Good. Is it moving? Yep. So we have one special module, of course, on SMEs, and so on. So you see a very comprehensive curriculum, and we're mixing there the trainers and lecturers from very experienced practitioners, plus we're using also academics to bring in the different aspects and making sure we're changing also the mindset. So what are my conclusions? I see public procurement as a strategic function and a strategic partner, and that is about this mind shift. And if you want to be a strategic partner, you need to be professional in what you're doing. And we see this in private sector. Where are procurement organizations in the big companies assigned? They're not administrative somewhere. No, they're on C-level. They're all up there because they're strategically so important. And this is what we can do in public sector as well. But we need to change the way we do it and we see it. It's not only the public procurement workforce, but also the policymakers, the way we're calculating budgets. How can I talk about sustainability and if my budgets are still done on acquisition costs of a product, of unit costs? If I talk about sustainable aspects, most probably the unit price, the acquisition price moves, and usually in a higher direction. But this is not reflected in any of the budgets. We say, yeah, life cycle cost is much, like the value is much higher if we invest here 50 euros more on the product and the acquisition cost because we have the whole life cycle and we can recycle it, whatever, is not reflected. So public procurement, I think we should, because my colleagues, Swedish colleagues, just said this 2 weeks ago in Paris at the OECD Public Procurement Week, they said words matter. So what we were discussing is, instead of calling it public procurement, why are we not calling it public business? Because that would reflect also the mindset. Thank you very much.
Wow, because actually a lot of food for thoughts and a bit provocative, but actually I agree very much with you. In my sector, we are doing half of the agencies public procurement, and I have this problem because actually I get the envelope, and that's the thing, and you have to, as like, but where it's too much money for this conference, or this is too much, not for this one, of course, but you know, and you have to run it and whatever, and maybe yes, this what you said, talk to the market, so important. But this means professionalization, exactly. So you have also, I would add also another food for thought, it's negotiation. Public buyers basically don't negotiate. We are overpaying what we are getting. Why? Because actually it's transparent. This is the money and this is what I want. Well, of course, do you go to the market and saying this is the money? I mean, you traveled in some countries where there is the bargaining of the markets. Well, you don't say how much money you have in your wallet because actually, and then the carpet will cost exactly that amount. Huh? Well, a little bit more, and then he will give you the discount to cost. So this is really, really important that I would like to negotiate, actually, to enter into negotiation. But when you're talking about the professionalization, what is it enough to ensure just the professionalization of the professional, of the public buyers, or we need to do something more?
Yeah. I think, of course, this is one big cornerstone, having the public procurement workforce trained and educated. But there are, I would say, 3 more important pillars. The second important is the organizational setup and processes in the organizations where these individuals working. Imagine I'm very skilled and I did the best trainings and I come back into my organization and now I want to go and do market consultation, negotiation, but my internal organization doesn't have this capacity, doesn't have the capabilities, we don't have the processes, we don't have the organizational structure. So that needs to be linked. Not only individuals need to be professional, but also the organization and processes. The other side are the SMEs, the economic operators. We need to also train them, we need to skill them, we need to make sure they understand public procurement. We cannot tell them how they should do the products and services, they are the experts. But we need to talk and we need to help them, first of all, go in the right direction, but also teach them about the public procurement, let's say, formal way of doing procurement. And because the worst is we get a great offer, and because of a formal mistake, I need to kick this SME or supplier out. This is the worst that can happen. So we can at least focus on this, so the economic operators. And then, often forgotten, we have policymakers, we have review bodies, we have the law-making part. They also need to understand public procurement. So we need to also kind of making sure they can follow this professionalization approach. We can teach them, and it's important. So more pillars than just.
Well, thank you very much, Uwe, and you actually give me the perfect hook to pass then our next panelist, Carlos, because actually the second point was about training SMEs or professionalizing SMEs in applying for public money. So, Carlos, you have a project about that.
Thank you so much. Okay, yes, I will try to focus my intervention on the other side, no? What the SMEs could expect, no, from procurement, but more in particular from innovation procurement, and which their demands are and how to meet them. Okay. First of all, just a quick overview of who we are. No, I'm working for a public-private partnership, which, as any other one, no, provides a range, no, of innovation-oriented services for both the public and the private sector. No, but what is more important in this scheme is that we have managed to sit around, to make them sitting around businesses, academia, and public buyers. This is the first step, but apart from having them sitting around the same table, we need a common language too. And it is not easy. It is not easy because business language is completely different from the legal one. This is something that has also been mentioned, no, by Uwe. No? So we need kind of intermediate jargon to allow for the translation from one side onto the another. Back in 2014, we tried to use the canvas that was defined, no, in the at that time, no, a famous publication on the Blue Ocean Strategy, the buyer utility map. And we found that as long as we stick to a very clear definition, not technical exactly, very clear definition of the problems and of the challenges, they would be understandable for both sides. Then we, as an intermediary or as a facilitator, would be in charge of making the appropriate translation onto the different jargons, no? The business one and the legal one. So, in this sense, our duty is triple, no? In the sense that we are supposed to know a little bit about the legal jargon. Of course, we are supposed to know about the business jargon, and of course, we should also steer properly the buyer utility map. No, so that's what we have been trying to do. No, we started working with innovation procurement back in 2013-14. At that time, we were asked by both, no, the business sector and our public buyers, which were sitting around, no, this table, no, this board of trustees, no, please explain us what is innovation procurement all about, and please help us. So we started this journey just by setting up these rules. Okay, we found this common language, and we we helped both public buyers in launching, defining, and implementing innovation procurement cases, and also the solution providers, both businesses and academia, to respond to these challenges. So we have been acting as a meeting point, no, in order to streamline, to facilitate this common dialogue, which, by the way, has not been perfect, but it has been useful in the sense that it has permitted to highlight some shortcomings and also some bottlenecks that are still to be addressed. No? We also deployed not only an organizational process such as this common table, but also a B2B, B2G, G2G platform, which now is full underway, wherein public buyers have got the opportunity to showcase their initiatives, and private agents and also academia can team up and join forces in order to respond to these challenges. This example is an innovation, public procurement of innovation case, which has been recently launched by the Spanish railway operator for an advanced railway traffic management system. We have deployed this common language. We have helped both sides, including with education and training issues, and in order to facilitate market scanning and market dialogue. And in this more or less 10-year time, we have managed to promote nearly 15 innovation procurement cases. Out of the implementation of these cases, these are the main conclusions that have been forwarded to us by SMEs. I will be focusing on the messages that have been transmitted by SMEs. SMEs have said to us that, innovation procurement is for them. It has got a clear leverage effect. Of course, the quality versus price approach suits them better, not that the traditional scheme only based on price, but there are some aspects that, in their opinion, should be improved. Yes. So the customer journey and also the time to market matters, especially for SMEs. So if you come up with a lengthy, time-consuming and risky procedure, it could be a deterrent, especially in the case of PCP. So what they ask us to do is to shorten the time span and to shift our focus more on public procurement of innovation rather than in pre-commercial procurement. Why? Because they say that they can do these trips on their own, maybe with some venture capital funds, maybe with some loans, but they can go quicker as long as public buyers keep their promise to have some interesting innovation procurement tenders launched in due time. This is the key message. That's why I include in this last sentence that strategic innovation procurement planning and programming is even more important than bidding itself, because it gives clear messages. So SMEs will be able to respond in due time if you allow us to do so. Aligned with these findings, the transmitted recommendations from the SMEs, exactly focus on legally binding IP strategic planning and programming is necessary to have these medium to long-term signals in the market. Preempt, as I told you before, PPI versus PCP. Facilitate, if possible, upfront payments during the contract implementation phase. Allow for compensation if the IP tenders elapse too much in time. Develop for early stages, not public procurement scheme, but compensation scheme or testing schemes such as sandboxes, test beds, or even blended facilities. And it is also important focusing on the international side that has been also mentioned by Andrea. In many cases, these IP tenders are international, but SMEs face a lot of difficulties applying to these cases. So we need kind of information platforms networks that could be, for instance, TED, but with a, I would say, SME corner, with an SME corner with a more straightforward approaches to facilitate the participation of SMEs in this kind of tenders. So that's all from my side. More or less I have stick to the time, so thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Carlos.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I agree that it's a complex process, and it's complex ecosystem. You like to use the word ecosystem nowadays. And then you showed the diagram with 3 entities, and I would like to a little bit abstract it and maybe connect it again a little bit with the academic work. So when we are doing the public procurement of innovation, I think that there are like 3 main areas that are overlapping, and then we have to, you know, that's diagram 3 balls and or circles, and then you there in the middle we have to learn.
Yeah.
One is, of course, there is business. We are buying a business, an economic transaction, so it has to be business economics behind it. But then, of course, there is the whole dimension of public. It's law, transparency, so political science, law and regulation has to, how to regulate that, because, I mean, we are paying the price of the transparency. That's the biggest problem. Also, the length is connected to the transparency in many cases. But then there is another dimension, the third dimension, and here I would put sociology. And why sociology? Because we are, when we talk about public procurement of innovation with SMEs, it's buying the innovative idea of the entrepreneur. And then we have to be able to evaluate what is innovative in that company, to evaluate the innovative idea. And the innovative idea is not the classical just business plan. It's the, what I call it, entrepreneurial plan. And this has to do a lot with the decision making of the entrepreneur, how he's building his network, how he's gonna invest or do the things when the plan A fails, because it will fail in a startup, in a small company, in an innovative company. So you have to go with the plan B, C, D, and how to do it. And this is more about the mind rather than the business plan. But going back to what you had said, you pointed out correctly on the length. That it's a lengthy process. Do you have in mind any examples where this, maybe the national based, where it has been cut or something that
yes.
you can
yes.
share?
Yes, I can come up with a very recent one, no? Which is by the way related, no, to the implementation of the BAM paradigm into the construction sector, no? I am referring to an IP case which has been recently promoted, no, by the Seville municipality housing company. No? They decided to, yes, exactly. They decided to drift from the traditional procurement process, and they brought together designers, architects, manufacturers, and constructors, all at the same time, okay? So they did not ask for, first of all, a design contest, then a construction bid, but they mixed it up all together, okay? And they managed to have all the value chain working at the same time. This is organizational innovation, of course, okay? But this is also, of course, technical innovation, because the usage, the reliance on the BIM paradigm allow to go very, very, very quickly forward and backward and check up for the risks involved in this innovative design. And what is more important, allowed all the value chain speaking the same language. As a result of this scheme, the expected time frame was lowered down from 36 months on to 24 months.
Thank you. No, this is very interesting. And actually, even this, we didn't really plan this or go into detail about this hook, but actually, you gave me a couple of hooks how to pass to the next panelist, to Darian, because you were talking about a platform, a place where SMEs can find information, but not only SMEs, but also public buyers. Okay. We have a project about that, and also we have also other projects that are working on simplifying or on fastening the track. So Darian, the floor is yours.
Okay, so since there were so much context already given, I'm not going to go into details about the context, but I will still like to say a couple of numbers to complement what Igor said. Igor was talking about 14% and 2 trillion. However, the share of, let's say, innovation in this public procurement that happens in the EU is around 11%. In US it's 20%, because Igor was also mentioning, comparing EU public procurement and US. In South Korea it's 25%. So we have so much space still to move, to be able to, let's say, invest through public procurement of innovation and use public procurement as innovation as a leverage, basically. So this is basically the context within which we do this project. We do this project exactly for this reason, to be able to use public procurement innovation to boost the competitiveness, to boost the innovation, to provide better public services. And this is where we are coming from. Carlos very well explained PCP, PPI. Why is PPI in this case maybe, I can even say better. Why is it better that we invest in PPI, even though PCP is also very important? And there are projects in this, but I will present really the one which are on PPI. I don't know, Igor, if you want to put maybe the presentation so that the people can see the...
I have the clicker, but I'll do it, don't worry.
So that you basically see the projects that are currently ongoing. I will start basically with the one which Igor mentioned, the public buyers platform. There are a lot of projects that are done on national level, on EU level, on public procurement. And it's true that it's very scattered. People cannot find information. People cannot find where am I actually supposed to go to understand what is happening, whether I can participate in something, is this relevant for me or not? Well, basically, this is the one in the center. So if you go online and you find the digital public buyers community, you will find one place where public buyers can get the information from the Commission, where they can share their own information, and also where they can join a community. There are already almost 20 communities which are onboarded on this platform, where they can share knowledge, where they can work together, maybe even potentially to buy something through a joint procurement. Why I'm also mentioning this one, this project as the most important one for you is because every other project you will find there. So if you want further information, if you go to Digital Public Buyers community, you will find all the other projects and explanations about them. You see there trainings for public buyers. The first one, actually the second one in the upper right corner is the one which Uwe was just presenting. So we do a lot of trainings for central purchasing bodies and other public buyers on how to use strategic procurement, how to do it. Basically, of course, that Uwe again said, it's not about just having a very, very experienced person who will come to his institution, but then this institution will be slow. Maybe the management will not be very receptive for him to use this knowledge. So that's why within this strategic procurement trainings for public buyers, we don't only train those who do practically public procurement, be that a legal person, prescriber who writes the tender specification, but we also go to the decision maker, to the high functionary of the entities, or even elected politicians, so that they understand what is the importance of all of this. We have the project Big Buyers working together, also onboarded on the community, basically where we said, let's help public buyers come together, work together on selected topics. Of course, we are talking about digital, we are talking about green, we are talking about transport, we are talking about health. So basically, we took a service provider who will help these public buyers to go together and to jointly do a public procurement procedure, of course, within the realm of innovation. So there we have working groups on sustainable solar panels, on zero-emission construction site, on mobility, non-polluting buses, for example, New European Bauhaus. So all of these working groups are also on the platform, so if you want more information, you can also go there. consortia of buyers engaging in PPI. We also tried a different way. We said, okay, let's go to public buyers with certain conditions. So you joined together, couple of you, hopefully from different member states, so that you try with this big volume to push for innovation, because you will have a bigger purchasing power, and we will give you sort of an incentive through a grant, through a subvention of what you will buy. So there are a couple of projects, also you can find them in the platform, where we are supporting directly consortia of public buyers who then purchase something within the procurement of innovation procedures. Public procurement outside of EU, the PP out, the one in the center low, very strong internationalization dimension. Basically, we are again supporting the supply side through, not directly, but through a business support organization to go and bid for tenders outside of EU. Of course, with the countries where this is possible, where there are bilateral agreements, where there is reciprocity in the access to procurement. The last one, it's the one, of course, which says new. It's the one that didn't start, it's just about to start. And there we have decided, we took a different approach. We said, okay, let's go, again, to public buyers who are willing to engage in procurement of innovation, who are willing to establish a department, who are willing to establish a living lab within their space, who want to do public procurement of innovation on a sustainable basis, not just ad hoc. And let's go to them and help them after they told us what they need help with. So if they say, yeah, but we don't even know where to start. We don't know whether we need to reorganize our entity. Can you give us the business case? Can you teach us how to do it? Can you show us by example of some other bodies, how did they do it? Can you show us, so it's not just the training, but really establishing an innovation hub within a public buyer. And this is where we're going to come with packages of consultancy service which are going to be tailored to exactly what they need. And on top of this, again, Carlos, something for you, we're going to do sort of a feasibility study to see what would be the best way to set up a platform which would be, among other things, SME-friendly, and which would put together all the, let's call them innovation challenges that the public buyers are launching. Because what we have now, yes, we have for above directive, the e-tendering, but I mean, the innovation challenges are usually launched locally or nationally. And then there are all plethora of different platforms, everyone using their own. They're not SME-friendly. You need to know the language. So we said, let's see how would be the best approach to do it, either sort of one big platform for everyone, or doing maybe sort of interoperable version of platform that would join all of this together. That would be very, very user-centric, because this is what SMEs basically need. So this is something which we're going to start hopefully 1-2 months from now.
Thank you very much, Italian. I will not make a question to you since we work in the same office. So, and also we are running a little bit out of the time, and I don't want to be on the way to the between you and your lunch. So I would like to open the floor. We will take only a couple of questions, maybe one from the from here and one from home, if you have any on Slido. Is there any question in the room? I have one question here and maybe one question there. Here it is Slido for the people at home. Again, please select the room Pluffy.
Yeah, it was a really inspiring talk, and I work on SBER in the Netherlands, so that's an innovation challenge, and we see a lot of problems with the procurement actually, or yeah, the innovation landing within the procurement, and I think you mentioned, yeah, you all came to the challenges that are in organizations. So how do we get them to change? Is it to make regulations easier, give them more flexibility, get them to meet each other, plan strategically ahead? I heard a couple of ideas that we can implement, but maybe you have other thoughts on that, how to help these organizations change towards buying more sustainable, because sometimes we now do innovation challenge for more sustainable solutions, yet they have different lifespans or investments cost, and this is very difficult in the current procurement process. How do we value CO2 emissions when we do public procurement?
Thank you very much for your question. It's a 1 million euros question, right? If we had an answer, probably we won't be here and having this session, basically. But yeah, let's start kick it off from here. Anyone specifically, or Uwe or Carlos, maybe?
No, just any thoughts that might have missed still on this topic.
Someone of you wants to?
Maybe I can give just it is a personal opinion, no? Okay. First of all, we should not be overambitious in the sense that, okay, we are aiming for the best, but maybe we can reach it stepwise, okay? This is something that has also been mentioned, no, by some of my colleagues, no? Do not disregard incremental innovation. Incremental innovation is better than nothing. It's better than nothing. So do not disregard, and we will be keeping track with it. This is the first one, no? The second point. Yes, it is possible to have a more fluid, a more straightforward dialogue between the different parties. Yes, it is possible. It is not easy, okay? But if you stick to talking about problems, everybody knows about its problems and is eager to share their views and their concerns with regard to problems or challenges. So this can be fostered. This can be fostered. There are platforms, we have been talking about platforms, and this can clearly accelerate all these processes. This is my opinion, okay?
Thank you, Carlos. And I want just to pick up on the incremental innovation, both incremental innovation when making the procurement. So maybe don't go to the really innovative idea, because that's, I mean, as the professor yesterday said, if you're going for the very innovative things, nobody knows if it's going to work because it's innovative. Exactly. With the incremental innovation, more or less you are sure, you're more sure, you can predict a little bit more. But when it's in your organization, if you are doing a piece of implementation to improve your legislation, your set of laws, your procedures, make sure one in, one out, to kick out, not just to add complication, not to add, oh, there is another thing, but kick out what is not working. And if you do it incrementally, it's easier, because then you just change a little bit. If you change completely the setting, then the legals and the financials will go, yes. Sorry, one more question from public, and then I will check if there is a slide.
Good afternoon. My name is Diana Dovga, and I represent CECOP, the European Confederation of Cooperatives active in industry and services. So when the last European Directive on Public Procurement was adopted, many of us were very satisfied to see that this introduction of the MEET criteria, most economically advantageous tender, which came a bit as a novelty, I mean, opposed to the previous logic of only the cheapest price criteria. So we welcome this a lot, but we know that still today, 10 years later, in reality, many of the public authorities are still applying the cheapest price criteria, which is quite problematic, especially if we talk about public procurement from services of general interest, or if we talk about some providers and social economy enterprises that are applying higher social standards. So my question is, and maybe for the colleague for the SME agency, we heard that very often the public authorities are afraid to use this criterion, and they're afraid to break the European rules, so they still kind of use the simplest, a bit conservative logic of simplest, cheapest price criteria. So do you address this in your trainings? Do you have specific trainings on these issues? And if not, I mean, I think that would be a really important topic to address. Yeah.
Thank you. Darian?
Yeah. This is definitely the topic of almost all the trainings that are done, especially since, I mean, in innovation, how can you do it? How can you do it if not using the best value for money as opposed to cheapest price? So we definitely do this. Now, one step back, yes, with the new directives, this was introduced. these directives were transposed into national legislation, it's still not happening. I can, to a certain degree, understand why, and Igor, as my boss, will understand why. When you do evaluation of best value for money, of the meat, it takes you a lot of effort to do the work. And the public authorities are, in this sense, undercapacitated. So I understand why this happens, even though it shouldn't. And this is why we do these trainings, to try to find a way between the, as you said, you mentioned something like, yeah, they do the criteria which resembles the meat, but it's actually sort of the cheapest price. The trainings are there, and not only this, but the guidelines are being set in a way to set not the standardized criteria, but to be able to identify the criteria which will work, which will be able to produce the result, but not also a legal risk that they don't want to face if, for example, I mean, someone will always challenge, but some risk you have to take. But there are now guidelines also produced within these trainings. So if you also, because I don't know, I didn't get where you're from. If you're from a public buyers, you can even apply to this. No, you can apply also to these trainings. Yeah.
Thank you. Just to say that in European Commission we do this. We try to do that. 70%. I mean, it's roughly sometimes most of the time 70% quality, 30% price. The point there, that the other side, the negative side of the coin, is that actually then everybody basically applies, gives the maximum price, because they are not playing much on the price. They are not going to really win on that. It's on the quality. So then it's inefficient because we are overspending and nobody's competing on the price. So there is definitely even research more on that, how to do it, and not only just to train. I think that we need to understand how to do it ourselves also better. There is no questions, I think, online, so I think that we can conclude this session. I invite you, if you I saw other people having questions, so over the lunch, talk to us over these 2 days. You are more than welcome to join us. I was also just instructed to tell you that there is the Meet the Experts session during the lunch. It's happening on the 3rd floor, so after this the main plenary room, 1 floor up, and there are 3 now ongoing. One is about consumers, one is about making the city centers more likable, livable, and the 3rd one is about the better regulation. So please visit also those during your lunch break. Thank you very much for participating, and I forgot one last slide. Can you turn the last slide, where actually just, if you want to know about more what is happening in European Union, in the Commission, about the public procurement, we have a public procurement gazette. You can scan there, or you can just Google, search online. Actually, I'm not supposed to say. And you can just basically get the newsletter once in a while, like every, I think it's 6 times a year, so that we can keep you posted what is happening. Thank you very much, and have a nice lunch.